All right, welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the DU Crossover. I'm Sean Fecto here with David Adams from Tumbleweed Times, here to talk about the matchup of AV Alta coming to visit Hearts of Pine. And we're also going to be talking about, a little bit of that next week for the Hearts and probably a little bit for AV, where they're going to have another game as well. And to kind of finish out the rest of the year, at least for the Hearts. We're going to have 3 games in 1 week to finish out, and we'll end with AV Alta. So we'll certainly focus on that AV Alta matchup there with David. But we will also be talking about highlighting the Spokane match and, of course, the Westchester match this Saturday on the 18th for the Hearts of Pine. But, David, welcome back to the podcast.
It's exciting to be back. I appreciate the opportunity, and I got to jump in earlier in the season, and along with William, who leads our supporters group here, and talk a little bit about the beginning of everything here at AV. And I get a good episode here. We get to talk about a game, get to talk about the playoffs, all sorts of different topics. So I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to have David back. I had a good conversation back in July. Can't believe it was all the way back in July we had that conversation, and maybe more towards the end of June. But certainly glad to have you back. And before I forget, I have been listening myself back on some of these things, and I'm still learning. I got my training wheels on, but I got to do the old, the self promotion deal, right? So people maybe be listening on podcast platforms. You may be watching us and listening to us here on YouTube, but just want to let everyone know that Dirigo Union does have a YouTube channel. So please go over if you can and take us in on the YouTube side of things as well. If you can get home one night and you decide, what am I going to watch? Dinner time type stuff. You just had dinner, sitting on the couch. What am I going to watch? Hey, maybe put on Dirigo Union channel on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the notification button. We're certainly trying to get up close to that 500 mark as we possibly can over on the YouTube side of things. Last time I looked, I think we're somewhere around that 410, 412. So we're closing in inside that century mark to get to that magical 500. So if you can go over there and help us out, we'd certainly appreciate it. And with that, I'd say let's now go ahead and get into it. So, like I said, the last time we saw AV Alta, it was a 2-0 defeat at Fitzpatrick Stadium back on July 2nd. AV Alta coming in and getting all 3 points, one of only 2 teams to present day to do that at Fitzpatrick Stadium. Um, so, any thoughts on what you can recall back on that matchup, David?
Yeah, honestly, I think probably the score line and man, I'll always go to bat for my team, but I think the score line of both of those, both 1-1 out at our place and then 2-0 Alta out of yours,
Yeah.
um, it felt like Portland was able to find pretty effective stretches of play. Messer had a header. I think there's like a free kick
Mm,
that came off the crossbar, fell right to a pretty wide open Messer. He wasn't able to bury it. And I think it was 1-0 already. Des Dunes had a rocket goal
mhm.
towards the kind of tail end of the first half, and then at 1-0, just trying to sit on it, and something like the 70th minute or so, Wilmer Martinez curled one home. So 2 goals from outside the box, and missing a wide open one on the other end. I don't know what the XG looks like for that game, but I think 2-0 Alta was probably about as lucky as we could have gotten out of that one. But yeah, it was a good game. I think it was pretty back and forth. I think a tie would maybe be the average way that one would have played out. But definitely rose to the occasion, got the goal luck, whatever kind of spin you want to put on it. It was a fun game. It was a fun game to watch, and definitely, I think if you want to get really like tactical with it, I'll talk about some of this some more throughout the podcast. I think y'all have probably about as good of a bead on how to line up your high pressing against our build up as most teams. And so, especially in the first like 30 minutes, it felt like we were not only turning the ball over, but turning it over fairly centrally.
Mhm.
Once we got a little bit more comfortable there, that's kind of when we settled into the game a bit more. But really, in both matchups, some of the press and just the angles that was coming from was definitely probably about as tricky as any team, which, not just to show up and compliment y'all or whatever. There's definitely been games where the score lines ended up worse for us, but just the overall flow of play, it felt like y'all's like defensive midfielders just kept popping up around midfield, picking off passes. So definitely the pressing game was an interesting kind of wrinkle to it. Got some lucky goals, held on, and got out of there.
Yeah, no, I look back at that matchup, and you're right. We were turning the ball over a lot, trying to go the other way in there in midfield. But those strikes by both goal scorers, real high quality strikes. If you go back and take a look at it, it's not like any one of those goals where sometimes you'll see it in USL League One. It's just the nature of the beast where ball's kind of kicking around in the 6 yard box and someone toe pokes it in the back of the net and all that sort of stuff. Both were pretty clean strikes, very, very, very clinical of the chances that AV Alta did get. And yeah, I remember the Messer header there that just went over the top of the crossbar, and Messer's face hitting the ground and just holding there for a few seconds, going, "I cannot believe I just missed that header right in front of goal. I cannot believe I just missed that header." But um, yeah, no, it's just one of those deals. Is the way the ball bounced and that particular day, and you guys walked away with a 2-0 scoreline and 3 points. So good on you. Like I said, one of only two teams to do it to the Hearts up at Fitzpatrick so far. So certainly one of those 3 points to cherish for you guys. So
Yeah, it's definitely one of the high points of our season, and since then, if anyone who's listening is kind of a fan of more USL One as a whole, or probably a fan of Portland, but really keeping tabs on USL One as a whole, you probably already know. If you are more just someone who's attending the games and kind of using this podcast to learn about what's going on in USL League One, man, I have a very sad story for you as it pertains to AV Alta. So that week, we Saturday at our place, we beat Naples 4-1, went on the road to y'all, won 2-0, came back, beat defending champs Omaha 2-1. That was July 5th.
feeling good.
That was 10 games unbeaten. I think we'd lost at FC Dallas in U.S. Open Cup was our last loss. But, I mean, even that was going up to play an MLS team, some of that.
Sure.
Hey, we're cooking, right? 10 games unbeaten.
Absolutely.
We have not won a league game since then. We are 14 games winless in the league. We have a meaningless Jägermeister Cup win over Monterey Bay in there. Not meaningless for them. We knocked them out from advancing, but we were already eliminated. It wasn't going to do anything for us. And goodness, so there's no good way to encapsulate a 14-game winless streak. But if any of you listeners want to just be my therapist, be my catharsis outlet, man, it's been rough here. I think a couple of the keys that kind of play out with that. The first, I think, was something I already mentioned a little bit. If you know anything about USL League One this year, Alta are a very high possession team. We're the highest possession team in the league. That's very much by design. I think there's only been 2 league games where we've had under 50%. It's how we play. It's very much a priority for us. But teams have been more and more comfortable in pressing us. And so even though we're maintaining possession, it's deeper and deeper in our own space, or it's being met with more and more costly turnovers. And so when you're trying to be a high possession team anyway, that's not great. The trickle down then is that our defense started to crumble. In part, this is because really we rotated some of our center backs a little bit, but Luca Mastrantonio kind of locked down a spot for us, played pretty well a couple of games, played well there in Portland, scored against Omaha. He started for Omaha's title team last year, so definitely someone who's kind of established at this level. Not too long into the slump, he got hurt, and really from that point, the defense started crumbling. We had our highs and lows in attack, but it's been more consistently lows in defense from there. And if you're conceding every game, it's hard to win that way. And then, to be a little bit sour grapes, I guess, there's been some bad luck along the way. And you make your own luck. You get the score that you deserve. But Naples scored in stoppage time to get to draw. Greenville, we gave up a goal in like the 85th minute, scored 3 minutes later. They went to replay and chalked it off. I didn't even know we had replay at this level. That could have been a win. Madison, we drew 3-3, hit the post twice in the last 5 minutes. Knoxville scored in stoppage time. And then in this last game, down 2 points to 8 seed Charlotte on the road at their place, desperate to stay alive. We go down 0-2. We fight our way back in 2-2. Some okay chances after that. No golden opportunities, but probably the better team once it got to 2-2. And then with 30 seconds left in stoppage time, we equalize. They go 5 points clear of us with 2 games left. And it's just been rough. And again, some luck if we're inches away, inches lower against Madison, inches to the left against Madison, we win 4-3 instead of the draw. We're in a better position there, but you just got to execute. And that execution just hasn't really been there. I'm going to give two takes that I'm very unqualified to give. So, if someone, if Pep is listening to this and he's just like, that's not how soccer works at all. Hey, fair enough, right? I think the two underqualified takes I have are that every coach, every team, every league, no matter the level, whether we're talking Premier League, USL League One, or, kids in the park, you got to have both stability and clarity and some kind of a system, and then also the ability to flex to some degree, the ability to adjust to who you have available, to the opponent you're playing, and some of that. I think we're much stronger in developing our own system. I think we're pretty clear in the patterns of play that we want to have, the style that we want to play with, and some of that. That's good. Every team needs that. I think we're pretty pronounced at that. When you go 14 games winless, you're, at least as a fan who knows that they don't know everything there is to know about soccer, you kind of start feeling like maybe there should be some adjustments along the way, or you'd like to see a little bit more of it. I think we're pretty stable, which when you're 10 games unbeaten, you feel top of the world. Oh man, nobody's ever going to crack our system, whatever. Yeah. And then it goes from there. So that's been exciting. A lot of the games have played out kind of with a similar cadence, which again, some of them we could have very easily gotten more points from, but that's been a little, it feels like sometimes it can just feel, here we go again. And then underqualified take number 2, not a coach, not a psychologist, not any of that. I think we have a lot of guys who are very good guys, cheer for the team. They're happy when their teammates do well. Very selfless in times of prosperity. I don't know that we have as many guys that are the grab people by the collar and get them back into the foxhole when things go south. Some of that is what you look to your veterans for. But we're the youngest team in the league, and some of the veterans that we have signed haven't seen the roles play out in the same way. We signed Miguel Ibarra, who's from Lancaster, made it all the way to the MLS, played a couple of games for the U.S. men's national team, AV Sports legend. He's barely played this year. Whether he has more to offer than what we're seeing and it just doesn't fit with the coach's system, whether he's a little bit older and kind of past things at this point, who knows? But he hasn't played that much this year. Luca Mastrantonio, we already mentioned, has been hurt and missing for much of this streak. Jimmy Villalobos has played in USL League One for a while. He was second team All-League last year in Madison. He was playing more at the start of the season, but has mostly been coming off the bench kind of 60th, 70th minute recently. So when you're a young team anyway, and then your veterans aren't in those like constant roles, and then you don't maybe have that young guy that's really stepping up, you've got a whole bunch of young guys that all kind of looking to establish themselves. No one's really grabbing that like, I'm the captain, I set the tone kind of role.
Sure.
It's easy for the snowball to feel like it's getting going a bit. And again, both of those are pretty underqualified takes. But just something for, hey, how does a team that literally after that Omaha game, just a couple days after we saw y'all, second in the table, how do you go from second at the table to 14 games winless?
Mm,
I think it's just some of those stuff, not off the field exactly, but beyond just, hey, our winger is just as talented as he used to be. We've still got some good young prospects. Some of those things are still there,
mm,
but I think some of those things starting to slip. You get reminded of just some of the harder to quantify maybe aspects of what goes into a successful team, and yeah, it's been rough. So exciting last 3 months for just teaching all sorts of life lessons. But I'm kind of tired of life lessons at this point. I'd love wins instead. I don't need as much character growth as I've gotten, but just having a good time despite it, I guess, right?
yeah, that's the thing about soccer, right? It's always willing to get you, learning you a little bit more about character, learning you a little bit more about humility, and how precious those good times are, and grab them with both hands and enjoy them while you have them. Because for the Hearts, for example, a three-game losing streak could be right around the corner. You never know. So
Mhm.
that's kind of what the Hearts are currently on. But you know, before I touch upon that a little bit, you did mention a little bit about a replay, which caught my attention. So could you explain what you mean by about a replay? And was that in a league game?
Yeah, so I was in the stands for this one instead of watching on the broadcast, so I could be misunderstanding some of this. So Greenville scored around 85. All of this is as memory serves. Could be off base in some of this. Greenville scored in about the 85th minute to tie it up 1-1. About 3 minutes later, Jimmy Villalobos gets played through and scores. Lights, celebration, PA announcer going off, some of that, right? 2-1. We get back set, but they hold up play for a bit, and then they call it off for offsides. I haven't in any of the other games I've watched seen someone kind of hold it up like that and
Mm-hmm.
come back for offsides. The ref hadn't signaled it. It wasn't like the flag was up,
Mm.
as they're all walking back to midfield. So maybe they did have the angles for it. Definitely on the replays that I've seen with it, it did look like, if nothing else, he just timed it up to play through. It's an understandable call, but I hadn't seen the call get made that late. They probably got it right, but as someone in the stands who, got our full goal celebration in and then got it called off, it was at least a gut punch for us there.
Did
But
the referees kind of like huddle up together and kind of talk about it, or did like one of like the head referee go off the field to like look at a screen or anything like that? Or
I'd probably have to go back and watch the tape on it. So the one thing that just kind of stood out to me was the delay in, because typically, especially at this league, right, we know that not everywhere is going to have
yeah,
all
yeah,
of the cameras at some higher level. So pretty much, we've definitely had some get called off for offsides. I'm sure
yeah.
y'all have as
Oh,
well. But
sure,
it
of
feels like
course.
they usually know pretty much right away.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's the refs huddling or someone going and looking at a screen. There was at least that kind of gap where, we were hoping that, man, get scored on in the 80 something, put one right back in the 80 something, come away with 3 points. And yeah, it just wasn't meant to be. So
So
I don't know exactly what replay system they've got, but
that's
it probably fairly, but did end up costing us there.
that's weird. So they scored the goal, celebration, come up to midfield. They're just about ready to kick off and start the game again, and they held it up, and then they called it off for offside.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's
but and
the referees in this league have got a lot to be desired, and that's a topic of conversation. You could have several podcasts on that one, but unfortunately, this is kind of some of the learning grounds for the referees coming in and learning how to be a pro and all that sort of stuff. Just like some of the players are coming in here learning how to be a pro. So it's just it's the joys of being in League One, and
oh yeah,
we get to have lots of patience for referee play on the pitch, just like we have lots of patience sometimes for new players on the pitch.
hmm
Um, but yeah, for the Hearts, like I said, I mentioned, the Hearts have kind of found themselves on a three-game skid. So we We basically went on a eight game unbeaten run, collected 20 points, and rocketed up to fifth place in the standings from, I think we were somewhere in that 10th, 11th spot at the time. So we grabbed a good 5 or 6 places in the standings over 8 games, and was actually, really on a roll, much like you guys were in the first third of the season there, right? So we kind of had a very similar run, and now we find ourselves maybe paying the piper a little bit for going on such a run like that. And the guys really using a lot of legs, grabbing a lot of points, and the guys. Any team is going to have injuries that they're just kind of dealing with throughout the league, right? Sore muscles and sprains and stuff and here and there. And when you get into such a blitz of points and stuff like that, it's my opinion that it takes a lot out of the guys to for an effort like that. And it's possible. It's speculative on my part, but it's possible. Maybe we're paying the piper a little bit for that. And we find ourselves 3 straight losses for the Hearts. That has kind of quieted, I believe, our home field playoff hopes for getting in the top 4. It's still there for us, but we have to kind of have like a perfect week and maybe get a little bit of help in order for us to get into that fourth place spot. So probably realistically out of reach at this point, but I think honestly, for the Hearts of Pine, this next 3 games, homestand, if you will, for next week for the Hearts, really looking to get back into the swing of things and seeing Heart football out there, where the boys are going to be pressing, much like we were just discussing there a little while ago. Seeing that press, winning the ball back, and being a little bit on edge, a little bit more on the defensive side of things. Maybe not giving that half a yard or a yard. Maybe just closing right up on somebody and trusting you've got cover in behind you, right? Challenging more on the ball, maybe more on the defensive third. So that is kind of what the Hearts kind of have left to do in these next 3 matches. I think we could probably maybe move up one more spot, realistically, maybe fifth. But I think it's probably about as far as we can probably manage in 1 week's time, since we just we gave away 9 points, right? That's probably a little bit too much for us to rekindle and surpass what we originally wanted to do prior to going on that 3-game losing streak. But for yourself, David, going into maybe some of the storylines that AV Alta has had along the way. You certainly mentioned the summary and the wins and the losses and this and that, but any storylines per se, new players added, anything along those lines, maybe something that the SG has kind of learned along the way for a next year type deal, or even some stories inside of the SG that you would like to share at all.
Yeah, couple of players, and I think player stories. He was really picking up steam around the time that we played y'all. Scored the first one up there last time. Jerry Desdunes hasn't had a monster statistical season. I think he's at like 5 goals, 3 assists, something in that ballpark. Not nothing, but he's not up there with Obregon and Hendra Long and some of the league leaders.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a guy that has been out of any kind of professional soccer for the last couple of years. He played for Northern Colorado in 2022. The last 2 years, he was playing, I think, like semi-pro for Ventura County or something like that. But there was some personal connections, and he ended up at the club. Started a little slow. You could tell there was a player there. But he's probably been our best attacker over the last couple of months. He's really kind of established himself in this league. He got a national team call up for Haiti.
Awesome.
And so I don't think he hit the pitch in the 2 games that he was there with them, but to be called up for the national team, a really huge step for him on a personal level. And so that's probably been one of the brightest points over the last couple of months. There's a couple article ideas I've got coming up, but one of those is going to be some different awards from the year. One of them is going to be kind of goal of the season in terms of, moment and impact and all of that. I think there's probably two main candidates there. But then another one I'm going to do goal of the season purely just based on the aesthetics of it. You be 3-0 up, be 3-0 down, whatever. Desdunes has like 3 or 4 entries on probably my top 10 there. His goals have come with style. He had the rocket against y'all. He had a looper from outside of the box with like power and curve to score against Greenville. He had another one against Westchester. He's had some pretty nice ones, some pretty nice entries there. So just a great story there. And then I think kind of the negative side of things would be that I think AV fandom and some of that is maybe not coming to grips exactly with, but figuring out, kind of try to calibrate. I mean, we're a first-year team. If we shuffle our coach every year, we're never going to be able to build something, and we know that. And so we don't want to freak out about 3 bad months and undercut what has been building. At the same time, we're 14 games winless, and sometimes it feels like we're just sort of doing the same thing and expecting different results. And so kind of figuring out, hey, like what does it mean to be a fandom that holds your team accountable, but also, is realistic and is patient and takes the long view. And some of that attendance has been pretty strong. I think we dipped kind of the first game once school was back in session, but looks like we're going to come in 3rd in the league in attendance this year. There's some guys up in the Northeast that are out in front. So I don't know, we're going to catch those guys. But Richmond is about 100 per game up on us. I don't think we're going to catch them with 1 home game left. But 3rd in attendance. The fans have been pretty solid, pretty consistent in showing up. There's some good momentum, but we'll even see now with this Richmond game that we've got coming up this weekend. Just kind of seeing what the energy is. You want to have enough of a scope of it to support the guys and congratulate them on a lot that they did accomplish this season and finish off a first professional season of soccer here. Like that's a really cool thing to have. And also we're coming in on a 14-game winless streak. So, kind of that balance and that tension and figuring it out. So, but just, cheering for the guys. I think probably the other story is whether we're going to be officially eliminated from the playoffs. Mathematically, I mean, it's all but happened. Technically, we're 5 points back of Charlotte. Charlotte plays Chattanooga, who is currently 2nd at the table. So you'd assume Chattanooga's probably favored. They play on Friday night, the 17th, same as we do. Obviously, time zones, they're going to play theirs first. If Charlotte beats Chattanooga, we go into the Richmond game out. It's over at that point. If Chattanooga wins or draws, obviously we'd rather have them win. But if Chattanooga gets a result, which, I mean, they'd probably be favored to do, then we'll be mathematically alive. But with 2 games left, we'll be however many points back of Charlotte. They're 5 up on us right now. 3 back of Madison. They beat us by 3 in goal difference. Tied with Greenville, but they beat us with 6 with goal difference. Richmond's a pretty doable game. They just got eliminated because Charlotte beat us. So, do they really, pack up for the cross-country trip and really come to play? We'll find out. So I think exactly where the team's mindset is heading into this one. If they're able to flush some bad games, some okay-ish games, but some bad ones recently, the gut punch against Charlotte, and come out and just kind of put a positive exclamation mark on the season overall. That'd be great to see. And then depending on how those results go, if Charlotte gets a win, even if we beat Richmond, we'll still be out. It'll be interesting even when it comes down to y'all's game. Do we play our A lineup and 100% go for it? Do we get some of our rotation players that, have been checking in the 70th minute and give them a start? kind of how some of that plays out. But yeah, just kind of figuring out where we stand as a team and as a fandom and some of that at the moment.
No, I got you. And it's when you talk about kind of going on that 14 game winless streak and getting towards the end of the year, and all teams are going to be starting to go through this here very, very soon. Some sooner than others. They got to start asking themselves, all right, what does next year look like for us? And if it's just a matter of you still got to check the box, like you already know, like yeah, we're not making any huge changes. You still got to go through that mental process, is my point, right? Where you have to kind of look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, how'd this year go? What was the good? What was the bad? What do we want to change? What don't we want to change? What does next year look like? So on and so forth. And it goes right from, the head coaching staff right down through and the coaching staff and then the players and all that sort of stuff. And you got to pretty much just ask yourself, what do you want next year to look like? Do you want it to look similar? And then you just want to tweak on what you have? Or do you want to, cut bait and move forward with something different? What does that look like, right? So all teams are going to be doing that this year. And I would ask you, in your opinion, do you think the AV Alta is going to stick with their head coach and stick with their playing style and just tweak on it for next year? Or is there something maybe the higher ups in AV Alta and maybe even some of the supporters group, maybe you're looking at maybe a different style on the pitch?
Yeah. I think like you just said, the three main options are run it back and be better,
Yeah.
run it back with modification or overhaul. I think we're going to keep the coaching staff in place. I think with this being the first season, it doesn't make sense to just shuffle the deck constantly. That's not how good programs are built.
Right.
I think it is a really I haven't thought through super team by team, but off the cuff, I'm going to say more for us than any other team in the league because, number one, we have such a drastic first half form to second half form. And number two, because we have such a pronounced sense of, we want to play like this.
Mm-hmm.
We are more than maybe any other team, and every team does have to, but maybe more than any other, we're going to have to look ourselves in the mirror and say, are we just going to try to tiki-taka our way through 2026 and, assume it works, learn some lessons, make some changes, come back, or are we going to try to do things a bit differently? I think the one thing that we should really be looking at is we don't have a super established, either in terms of their history coming into this year or someone during this season, central attacking player. Probably our better attackers on the year are wide players.
Mm-hmm.
Probably our better midfielders are more defensively minded.
Okay.
So we don't really have a great 10. There's some guys that can play the role, but we don't really have a 10. We've got some strikers who are okay. Cerritos has had 2 nice finishes in the last 2 games for goals. Purely based off of this season, he probably deserves to go into next year as the starter. But we don't have that kind of talismanic, Maru and Cheney, just straight up strikers in Charlotte. Henderlong, just a straight up striker in Naples. Some of those guys. You can definitely get goals other ways. Yep. But I think given some of the limitations of play it out to the wings, but our strikers are short enough you can't really cross it in as much as consistently. Get it to the middle, but you don't have that guy that's just going to, break lines with the pass as much. I think whether that's a 10, whether that's a striker, whether that's the same coaching staff or any of that, I think that's an aspect to our game that if it's just fullback winger connections all day, eventually teams just kind of get a handle on that. Right. And then especially when we got some good midfielders, but they're fairly defensive, more clean it up, but there's not that guy to give it to. Mm-hmm. And so I remember even our conversation earlier in the year. I think at that point, Masashi Wada was playing a little bit more withdrawn, kind of more holding midfielder to 8, even though he had, some technical quality up in attack. But then you see some games, he's got a little bit more license to roam, a little bit more, kind of that 10 or playing off the striker or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of finding a guy that fits into that kind of range, or just a straight up striker that can make magic from whatever he gets. It really feels like we need one of those guys. So just kind of strengthening the spine. I like a lot of our wingers. But yeah, we're really, I think more than anyone else, are going to have some really interesting questions to ask. And I would love to just hop in the time machine, get to next April. And I wouldn't be shocked if we just completely run it back. And I wouldn't be shocked if we look completely different. There's a big range of outcomes for us, for sure.
No, I got you. I just think of, you talk about front men a little bit and whatever, and sometimes, maybe you need a little bit of help on the attacking side of midfield, or maybe a different style of striker, or one of the two. Like pick one. I think of people like Cheney out there in Charlotte, that he basically like creates his own goals sometimes. And that would be a style of striker, I think, that would probably work well for you guys, where a guy that's kind of been around a little bit, he understands the league, and he can kind of create his own chances sometimes, and is lethal when he does get his chances. Something Cheney-esque, if you will, would probably be a good call for you guys. I think probably in the off season. What those contracts look like, I'm not really sure, but I think that would probably fit your style of play.
Yeah, we had a guy, Joaquin Acuna, just came out of the University of North Florida, playing for us early in the year, scored a penalty against Chattanooga in a 3-2 win out here, and then went off late in that one with injury. He's been out for the year since. I don't know exactly what it is, but ACL or something like that. He's been out.
Yeah.
Interesting player. He didn't have his finishing boots on early in the season for sure. Especially our first U.S. Open Cup game against lower league side Ventura County. I mean, he might have been able to get a hat trick if he was a little bit crisper. But there's an interesting kind of physical bull past people kind of player there. If he comes back healthy, I think he gives us a really interesting changeup. But even so, yeah, I think you still probably need maybe Cerritos, Acuna, and one other guy, or maybe we keep Alaribe, who's been okay for us, lose one of the others. But yeah, I think there's some veteran, bigger kind of physical player in there. And as not a coach, as not someone that's around the team every day, maybe the answer is just to double down on what we're doing and just kind of commit. This is our identity. Rome wasn't built in a day. We're gonna make it happen eventually. But I think adding that dimension is going to loosen up things for us in other places.
Yeah, and I think, for me, my opinion, outside looking in, for what it's worth, I think you guys stick with the style that you're at. I think the coach doesn't go anywhere. I think you are probably going to end up maybe tweaking a little bit in the midfield and on the top end and around the 9 spot. And why I say what I say with that striker piece, right, is you guys are going to continue passing the ball around and wanting to do build up, right? And if you have one of those bigger strikers that knows how to kind of set up his own chances, sometimes when you pass the ball into a striker, it's a quick pass back into the midfield and then making a different run. Sometimes you just pass it into the striker and say, do something with it. And, it's nice to have those guys where you're just like, you know what, if I can just get it to him and he's anywhere inside the box, he's going to probably get a chance on goal. Those are the kind of guys you're looking for, that can probably body a guy off and half turn on the other one and put a strike in towards the keeper. And that's why, anytime we're talking about a striker like that, the first name that always comes to mind for me is Cheney, because that's his MO. That's like what he does. But for the Hearts, for any storylines, I think we just signed Sega Koulibaly back when we last met July 2nd. He is a 6 foot, 196-pound center back that basically came out of France. Born and partially raised in Bamako, Mali. He basically moved from Mali when he was about 6 over to France. And he came up through the U16 and U20 France international team, right? And then he spent some time over in Rennes too, in the French league. Had 46 appearances for those guys. And then he found his way over to the States, and over at LA Galaxy had 49 appearances over there in MLS. Actually, he's got a goal for El Trafico, a winning goal for El Trafico for the LA Galaxy, and he had a knee injury, kind of found himself out of football for some year and a half, 2 years, as some injuries will tend to do for some people. And we were lucky enough that we got his signature to come back into USL League One and just kind of get his feet back underneath of him again, right? When he is fully healthy and right, he does not belong in League One. He belongs in a division much higher than League One. Whether that be championship or whether that be another stint in MLS, I don't know. But he's basically with us, trying to get a good run of games, and trying to get healthy on a consistent basis. Probably about 4 weeks or so ago, I would say, somewhere in that neighborhood. He had another tweak on that knee, and he was out. But prior to that, I think he started like 3 games for us. One of them was against Westchester, against the Golden Boot leader, and still currently Golden Boot leader, Obregon Jr. And Sega Koulibaly was assigned the Golden Boot leader and was asked to basically neutralize him, and he did so. So basically, I'm going to go from memory, so I might be a little bit off, but basically he had 0 goals, 0 assists. I think he had about 35, 40 touches all game, and he only had about 2 key passes. And I think that was when he got out on the channels away from Sega, because Sega was frustrating him. And I think that was probably where those 2 key passes came in for dangerous play into the box. So that's what a healthy Sega Koulibaly can do for the Hearts of Pine. And he's trying to get back healthy again. He's kind of looking at maybe that AV Alta game, maybe just before the playoffs, trying to get back on the pitch, and see if he can help out these Hearts, do something in the playoffs. So we'll see what that looks like. But that is certainly a note for the storylines here since we last saw each other, and kind of update you guys on. So if you see number 45, Sega Koulibaly, and he is healthy, he is going to be a dangerous player for the Hearts, sitting at center back. Um, one of the things, as every team is doing this year, getting their ticket sales up and going again for next year. I'd say most teams are probably pretty well through it by now, or in probably the ending throes, if you will, of securing ticket sales for next year. Um, Proud to say, Hearts of Pine had 98% on terms of the season ticket holders re-upping for next year. So they only had some 2%, maybe 100 tickets that they could offer out to anybody. And of course, you can imagine those went about half a second. Those 100 tickets were gone, right? So wait list is still pretty large, in the thousands for season tickets for Portland Hearts of Pine. And that will continue to grow as we move forward. But the Hearts are looking to try to break the USL League One single game record for attendance is what they're trying to do. I don't know exactly what that is in terms of a number, but basically they put out another 500 tickets for standing room only. And the Hearts are usually probably averaging right around that 5780, 5800 is usually what their attendance is typically announced. I think 2 or 3 times we tipped over that 5800 mark this year, but on the norm, we're probably right around that 5750, somewhere in that neighborhood. So with
Yeah, it's
another,
been.
with another
As
five.
memory serves, I think the record, I know for sure someone's done 6,000 at some point.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think someone has done like 61 something,
Hmm.
maybe 62. So if y'all are kind of comfortably sitting at 57.5, if you get another 500, I think that'll set it. Do you know which game they're targeting for the record?
Yeah, I believe it's Westchester game, so it's going to be the
Okay,
18th.
nice.
So yeah, I think we're going to be if we get one of those nights where we would have had that normal like 5750, we add another 500 on top of it, we're going to be sitting right midway of that 6200, 6300 threshold,
Nice.
somewhere in that neighborhood. I'm sure they're hoping for like something with a 63, right? I'm sure that's
Mhm.
what they're
Yeah.
hoping for. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Fitzpatrick Stadium is good up to 7,000 people, but anything above 5,500 is standing room only. So you know we can't have too many people just standing all the time, right? So
Yeah.
we know there's plenty of people who are like I'm fine. I'll sit down on the hill. I'll lean up against the rail and all that sort of stuff. But there's kind of like a tipping point where you're like, all right, that's about all the people we should probably have standing, right? So I think this is the Hearts organization kind of trying to be like, okay, we've been really solid all year long with no issues at all at the mid 5,700 range, and even tipped up into the 5,800 range a little bit, right? And we were good. Let's have one night of this 6,250, 6,300, and see what that looks like.
Yeah, yeah, that's exciting, and I mean, obviously, I'm sure everyone there is already super aware of it. You don't need me to come in from the outside and mention it, but obviously, I mean, y'all's attendance has been crazy all year, and definitely building something there as teams and fans and community and all of that. That everyone from the outside is at least aware of, right? Where it's on the USL radar for sure. And everyone's kind of looking at, all right, how does Portland generate game day atmosphere and fandom and merch and whatever else, right?
Right.
If you're talking about any of that, y'all are definitely one of the first names to come up, probably in about any category. But it'll be fun. And I think it's a good thing for the league that there's a team that's just hit the ground running so hard and all of that. And whatever y'all do in the playoffs or not this year, I know Spokane made it all the way to the final last year as a first year team. Maybe you match that, maybe you don't. But I think kind of when you zoom out and look at that big picture, I can't think of a USL one launch that's been more successful, big picture. And I mean, we've got 7 expansion teams. It looks like coming in this next year, and it sounds like Boise is going to make a run at this kind of hit the ground running. I don't know exactly what they're doing with season ticket deposits, if they've got easier ways to get refunded or whatever. But I think they've put up over 6,000, maybe 6,500 season ticket deposits already. And there's going to be some smaller teams. Eugene looks a little bit smaller. We'll see what the Cosmos do or don't do or whatever. Fort Wayne sounds like they're going to have a really nice stadium. But yeah, just some of those teams coming in that for all of our late season slump, our attendance is still pretty good. Y'all are obviously rocking it. Boise looks great heading into next year. Fort Wayne looks like they're going to be exciting. It's cool. It's cool to see that kind of momentum building and teams trying to blaze a path of what a strong launch looks like.
Yeah, Boise is got a potential of doing big things. Of all the things that you just talked about, and you know, people are starting to see actual video of what their stands are starting to look like with that big
Mhm.
overhang, very European style type of stands with that roof that pitches over the top of it and stuff. And Boise has the potential to do some very big things next year, and I hope each and every one of those ticket holders certainly come in and pack the place every single week. That's exactly what this league needs is more clubs that are supported by the community and that are there week in and week out, making some noise for their club. So I certainly hope, I wish Boise all the best and the supporters group that will be established out there. I wish them all the best, and I certainly hope they can certainly, have a really good product out there and a really good atmosphere week after week after week. That'd be a great thing for us.
I gotta say, man, as someone out west, I'm just excited more Western teams are coming. The Northeast doesn't have it as good as Florida. It seems like every week some expansion team's getting announced in Florida. So, as someone from Orlando originally, man, I missed the boat on some of the timing of this. But right now, it's just us in Spokane until you get to like Omaha, Texoma. But with Eugene and Boise coming in next year, even with like Corpus Christi coming in, still going to be a plane flight probably for most fans, but
Yeah.
there's at least a world where you can get up to Eugene or Boise a little bit more easily. So, right now we hit the road for Vegas and Sacramento in the Jägermeister Cup, which was cool. We had a bus go up to Sacramento, and even that was 5-hour drive or whatever. So, Eugene or Boise going to be further than that. But as someone out on the other side of the country from y'all, man, any teams that want to come out our direction, we'll take them. Riverside is like a suburb of the greater LA area that there's rumors they're getting a team in 27. Man, a 1.5 hour away rival. Man, that sounds amazing. I'm in for it. 800 miles is our closest right now. So
At this point in time, I think any time they're going to put in a new Florida team, they need to have two Western teams. I think that's going to be the new
something
rule going forward.
something like that. We gotta have you guys share the wealth. Port St. Lucie and Space Coast and Golden Coast, whatever the coasts are. So I don't even know how many coasts they have in Florida.
Uh, the other piece of information I certainly do not want to forget for the Hearts of Pine is just recently the Portland Press Herald and the Blazing Musket as well both come out with articles stating that the Hearts of Pine are now in the early conversations of having a women's team. They're eyeing a USLW League team that if all things go well, you got to keep in mind, Fitzpatrick Stadium is a community stadium, so that certainly starts off with conversations with the city on what they want to do and what that looks like going forward, and getting all the checks and balances, as you can imagine, with the city, giving the thumbs up on such an effort, right? So when they say they're in early talks, that's basically what they mean is, hey, we're going to run this by the city and see if it was something we can pursue. But it shouldn't be the first time the city has heard this from the club. The club has kind of mentioned right from the get-go that, yes, they very much plan on having a women's team. Just let us get the Hearts of Pine up and running first. And, yeah, we're going to move our eyes over to getting a women's team started. So, it shouldn't be a surprise that, we're a week or two from playoffs and, hey, wouldn't you know it, we're talking about a women's team. Imagine that. They did exactly what they said they were going to do, right? So it's, that's definitely a really good thing for up here in Portland and getting a women's team that will spend probably about a month and a half, 2 month season somewhere in that neighborhood, and the USLW team, and get things rolling there first, and get that short schedule and get things established, and if they can kick off in 2027, who knows what the women's team system and league and the Super League and all that sort of stuff, and what that's going to look like in another 3, 4, 5, 6 years, right? So it could be a short stint in USLW, and maybe, after they run for 3 or 4 years, 2030, 2031, 2032, maybe they look at maybe moving up. You never know, but just certainly wanted to share the fact that they are having early conversations about getting that USLW team and eyeing 2027 as the first year they'll be on the pitch.
Yes, yeah, that's exciting. It was something that was mentioned when the team launched here, that they wanted to build out a ladies team at some point. There hasn't been much announced since then, so 2027 would still be pretty realistic. If I think probably even if you heard something in the next 6 months or so, the nice thing is that it's still Lancaster Municipal Stadium, but Alta have essentially exclusive rights to be able to use it. So if they said, hey, we want to bring another team here, there shouldn't be as many hoops to jump through as somewhere like Fitzpatrick that is used more broadly. So we'll see, but it'd be great to to continue to see that built. When they announced Alta, they said we're going to have a men's team, we're going to have a ladies team, we're going to have an academy. We're 2 for 3, but the ladies part hasn't been on the forefront, at least in what's been announced. I'm sure there's behind the scenes work going on, but yeah, it'd be cool to see some of that start to come together more visibly. That'd be awesome.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into our matchup there, David. So basically, as the listeners that have listened to the crossover are well aware of, usually we're going to go into our starting 11, highlight 2 or 3 players for us to kind of keep an eye on. Try to give some numbers to those players if you can, so we can be looking for numbers and not the nameplates and such. We're going to go ahead and take a stab at a score line. Have some fun with it. Yellow cards, red cards, if you so choose. Goal scorers. Much detail as you choose to throw in there, and like I said, have some fun with it. Score line predictions usually go sideways almost every single time, so no big deal. We don't worry about being wrong, but we just try to have a little fun with it. So go ahead and kick us off, David, and kind of what you got on your side of the house for this matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one because I do think if we're mathematically eliminated, that we will probably rotate pretty heavily. We obviously, especially if we don't get a win against Richmond, man, we want to try to finish off the season well.
Right.
So I think there'll still be a desperation for a win. But hypothetically, if Charlotte beats Chattanooga to eliminate us, but we get the monkey off our back and beat Richmond, what does it look like? I think at that point we rotate pretty hard.
Okay.
A couple players to keep an eye on. Eduardo Blancas kind of plays as an attacking mid. Sometimes he's listed as a winger or occasionally even striker. Usually he drops somewhat deep. And so I think he's number 30.
Okay.
Probably our player of the season. He's a little up and down, but when he's on, he's outrageous, especially in his free kicks. As of a couple weeks ago, there might have been some others that have scored some sense. I think like Reed Stevens scored one for South Georgia this past weekend. So as of a couple weeks ago, there have been 8 free kick goals, like direct free kick scores across all of USL 1 this season. Blancas had 4.
Wow.
So he
dangerous on free kicks.
Very dangerous on free kicks. We've got some other guys too. Wilmer Martinez, number 80, pretty good as well. But Blancas probably the premier weapon in the league this year. I think he's on like 9 goals for us, which leads the way. Mentioned Jerry Desdunes, number 7, short, tricky winger, a lot of fun, and so he's someone that you could see play. You might see Miguel Ibarra, number 10. He hasn't played, again, much for us this year, but Lancaster legend, played for the USMNT, really gone as far as anyone from the Valley has gone in the sports world. And so I think they'll try to get him some playing time over the next couple of games. I think he's like 34 now, so he's probably got some decisions about what he wants to do next year, but you might see him there as well. And then Miguel Pajaro, number 26, I think, our center back. He's played the most minutes of anyone on the team this year. It's been a little up and down without Luca Mastrantonio. It'd be great. Mastrantonio, number 4, I think, would be wonderful to have back. The Mastrantonio Pajaro combo, I think, is probably our best back line. Pajaro is maybe a little bit more fiery. Mastrantonio is a little bit more settled, which is a pretty good center back pairing to have.
Mm-hmm.
But those are a couple players to watch. But it's definitely possible that if someone looks at the lineup and goes on FB Ref or something like that and sorts by minutes, it's very possible that you get our top 11. It's possible that we rotate pretty hard. I'm gonna say that I'm going to give us the benefit of the doubt that we're still in it, which would mean Charlotte dropping points against Chattanooga. Madison goes on the road against Omaha, Greenville at home against Tormenta. Both are pretty tricky games, so we might be in the thick of things, but still have to pass up 3 teams in one game. I think when it's going to come down to it, though, I think if we can beat Richmond, there's going to be a level of relief that might
Hmm.
actually free the team up to do better. But I think we've been slipping for a while. I think any team with serious playoff aspirations probably looks at us as a winnable matchup. So I think it's going to be 1-1. I'll say Blancas scores early, but from inside the box, he decides to mix it up. I'll give y'all, Ollie Wright or someone getting
There you
one
go.
against us. 1-1 going into the half, 1-1 most of the way through. And I'll say it ends up 2-1 Portland. Goal somewhere in the last 5-10 minutes. We struggled a little bit with late goals. Greenville, Naples, Madison, some of those. So I'll say 2-1 Portland. If nothing else, I feel like some of the episodes I've listened to, it's always just teams picking themselves.
Yeah, you got to
Guess
back
picking against
yourself, right?
today. So you know what? I'm going to reverse jinx this. This is our one way out. I'm going to pick Portland to win, and we'll see if this fixes it. But I think it'll be close all the way through. The big swing factor is going to be our playoff standing. But I'll say 2-1 Hearts heading into that one.
Reverse psychology is going to break the 14-game unbeaten streak. You heard it here
I will try
first.
anything at this point. Yep.
If AV Alta beats the Hearts, the AV Alta's coaching staff and their players can call up David and say thank you for breaking it.
Absolutely.
So for the Hearts, I'm just going to run through it real quick. Starting 11 is probably going to be typically what the Hearts have typically seen. Hunter Morrison goal, Mo Mohammed in right back, Vinberg and Green, your two center backs. Messer out on the left hand side. That'll be the back line. Hearts play a 4-2-3-1. So Mikey Lopez, our captain, wears number 5, will be the holding midfielder. Michelle Poon Andreon, number 8, and a highlighted player for everyone to keep an eye on. Again, he wears number 8, Michelle Poon Andreon. He's basically the phone operator, if you will. If you want to go back to the old days, basically just connecting the phone calls back and forth, connecting the passes back and forth. Big distributor out of the midfield is Michelle Poon Andreon, and also snuffs out any attacks coming back the other way through the midfield. That's what MPA does, and he's also the first ever signing for Portland Hearts of Pine. So a special player all the way around. Keep your eye on number 8 in the middle of the park for the Hearts of Pine. Um, the 3 that are going to be behind the striker, Walter Varela will be our right winger. And then Masashi Wada wears number 77, also another highlighted player for the Hearts of Pine. Came over from the J League, and he played up and down the J League. He came on over, and he's been just outstanding player for us. Um, multiple times, head coach Bobby Murphy just made the comment of, sometimes they just tell the guys, look, just get the ball to Masashi. Your career will go so much longer for you sometimes if you just realize that sometimes someone's better than you and you just get the ball to them and they can make things happen for you, right? And that's the kind of player that Masashi Wada is. Really good at seeing space, seeing the passes before they even materialize, passing to space, knowing he's got runners that are going to meet the ball there. That's the type of quality that Masashi Wada has. And I forget the team that we played against, but he's also got a pretty deft touch in the box too when the ball's coming in. I think it was at Greenville, um, and or we were playing Greenville. I think it was at their place. Yeah, because when Greenville was here, we had the Ollie Wright hat trick. So I think it was at Greenville. The ball came in. Masashi Wada made a first touch on it, and the ball rolled behind the defender. Right, he ran to where the ball was going to be, rendezvoused with the ball, struck the ball, hit it up in the roof of the net, and wheeled off to celebrate with the defenders behind him, basically hands on knees and head towards the ground, and couldn't believe what just happened. And I don't know, that's the type of quality that Masashi Wada has in the box as well. So keep an eye on number 77. And of course, our penned in left winger, you're always going to see him as long as he's healthy. Number 10, London, England's Ollie Wright. Basically, he is currently sitting in the assist side of things right now for the League One. He's sitting on 7 assists. He's 2 back from Baccaro and Ostrom for Omaha and Charlotte. If you look on the goal side of things, he's not too far off the mark, considering that he is big on the assist side of things. He's got 7, actually tied with Wada, previously mentioned. So they're both on 7 goals. Too far back to be anything seriously considering Golden Boot. Their 7 goals to Obregon's 15. So I don't see him catching Obregon Jr. And nor should he, because the one good thing that the Hearts of Pine have for him is the goals are usually distributed pretty well across the front of that line, and sometimes Wada, he's going to score 7 goals. Sometimes Ollie Wright, he's going to score 7 goals. Sometimes our left back Nathan Messer is going to score. I think he's sitting on 4 goals this year. Titus Washington had a brace and sprinkled a few more in there. He's probably got 5 or 6. They're coming from all different places, which is a good thing to have. Sometimes having a Golden Boot leader is not necessarily the best thing to have because they just know who you need to cover, right? But when goals are coming from your team from 4 or 5 different players, it's a little tougher to figure out who you need to cover. So the only person left in the formation is number 14, Titus Washington. He has come into form probably some 6 or 7 games ago. Cooled off just a little bit as of late, but I think he's another one of those players that kind of have some knocks and niggles that he's trying to get over, and hopefully he can get back in this week that we got in front of us and kind of get back into form and get on a little bit of a streak going into the playoffs. That'd be the best thing for young Titus Washington, which is in his first professional year this year for the Hearts of Pine, and get him hot before we go out, more than likely on the road for playoffs. It'd be nice to see him get a few goals here this week. So for the matchup, I see a couple of goals. I see a revenge game, if you will, from that 2-0 scoreline. We're going to go 2-0 the other way. Goals are going to be coming from Titus Washington, and Walter Varela is going to score a goal. More than likely in the first half. JT Kamara typically comes on and substitutes for Varela on that right winger spot, gives a little change of pace. The dribbler of the Hearts of Pine, he wears number 80. So when you see a number 80 getting subbed in, he served his one game suspension for a red card that he had. So if you see him come in, that'd be another one that you probably want to keep an eye on. Probably about that 75th minute, somewhere in that neighborhood, he may come on and for Walter Varela and sit out on that right wing. But that's what I've got for this particular matchup. Anything further on this before we go ahead and move on to a little bit of table talk?
No, I think that pretty much covers it.
Okay. So the last thing that we're going to go ahead and do is just have a little bit of table talk. We're going to try to see kind of paint a picture of what we think that top 8 is going to look like for the playoffs, and of course, in doing so, who that Shield winner is going to be. A little bit about the wooden spoon for those that don't know and are new to it. We got 2 expansion clubs here, so I'm going to assume a few people listening probably like, wooden spoon, what are you talking about? So the wooden spoon basically goes out to the the team that finishes in last place in the League One. So we'll touch upon that a little bit. Maybe also talking a little bit about anything further in terms of next week and what that looks like for our 2 clubs and any final thoughts on that. So, would you like to take the first stab at the top 8?
Yeah, let's do this. So the top 3 feel fairly settled. It's probably Knoxville, Chattanooga, Spokane in some order. Yep. Spokane's 4 points back of Knoxville with a game in hand. But Spokane's 3 final games, all are road games. Knoxville gets Texoma and Greenville at home. Spokane goes to Naples, Portland, Omaha. That feels like a tougher run-in. So I'll say Knoxville finishes up number 1. Chattanooga and Spokane, probably in some order, 2, 3, but it feels like they're going to finish the job. Obviously, you guys are really watching that 4, 5, 6 race. And actually, there's only 4 teams in the league that are at home the rest of the way. It's number 1 Knoxville, and then it's all 3 of y'all fighting this out: Naples, Omaha, Portland. And so Naples gets Spokane and Charlotte at home. Spokane's probably the toughest matchup. Omaha gets Madison and Spokane. and then y'all get Westchester, Spokane, and us. Especially the form that Madison's in. Madison's picked up 12 points their last 5 games. Naples and then Charlotte's going to be right on that playoff line fighting. Probably y'all's games against Westchester and I mean, frankly, against us are some of the ones that the teams are going to come into with a lot of belief. But Spokane has really the opportunity to play spoiler, given that they face all 3 of y'all. So, I'm sure y'all would love to see them maybe rest players midweek to be able to, just be as fresh as possible for the other 2. South Georgia in 7th. I mean, really one of the stories of the season. They had an awful beginning and have absolutely caught fire since making a coaching change part of the way through. A point back of y'all, but you guys have a game in hand anyway. I think Georgia probably ends up 7th. And then Charlotte right now, 2 points clear of Madison, 5 clear of us in Greenville. I think it's probably Independence versus Mingos. Charlotte gets Chattanooga at home, Naples on the road. That's pretty tricky. Madison gets Omaha on the road. Tough game. Omaha's in great form. Big rivalry game there in the Midwest. But then if they can get even a point out of that, if Charlotte drops, all the points, some of the points to Chattanooga, final day of the season, Charlotte at Naples, Madison at Richmond. 2 big derbies for them to finish it off. Rivalries can go either direction, but feels like an easier finish. So I'm going to say that Madison keeps their form going and they slide into that 8th spot.
Oh, we got Madison taking over, huh?
By the skin of their teeth. I think they're gonna catch it, but that might just be my frustration about Charlotte beating us. So we'll see. We Madison and us, we drew 0-0 and 3-3. So I don't know what the through line there is, but I'll give them the nod. Underneath that, Greenville, actually the best of those kind of 4 teams from 8th to 11th in goal difference. But are they going to make up 5 points? Home against Tormenta, road against Knoxville. Most informed team in the league and best team in the league. That's really tricky. We've got Richmond, which is at home, which is one of the easier matchups on paper of those teams chasing 8th. But we're 5 back, so we got to have stuff go our way, and we got to go into Portland, so that's tricky. Texoma at Knoxville at Tormenta, 7 points back with 2 games left. They're officially eliminated anyway. And then your wooden spoon, Richmond up 3 points against Westchester. Richmond goes to us, and then home against Madison. Westchester at y'all, at Chattanooga. I think Westchester's finishing 2 is probably tougher anyway, and they're 3 points back, 3 goals back anyway. So I think expansion side Westchester finishes bottom of the league. I'll say that Knoxville holds on to their spot at the top of the league, and Madison squeaks into that final playoff spot, kind of at the 3 main inflection points. And then for the 4 seed final home game, you know what? I'll say that y'all find a point because Spokane's a shared opponent anyway. Naples gets Charlotte. Y'all get Westchester AV. So, hopefully y'all can just take care of business against Westchester and Spokane because I need as many opportunities for us to finally get a win and get this monkey off of our back. But I think Westchester is a beatable team, and y'all have 3 all at home. So you guys have to juggle that midweek game that the other ones don't. But you've got the home fans, you got the crowd, and no travel. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I certainly will, and I think, just to kind of go through my 8 real quick, I got 1 Knox, 1, Chattanooga 2, Spokane 3, Naples 4th. I do have Hearts of Pine moving into 5th. I think we move past Union Omaha. I think we're going to get 7 points to Omaha's 4. So we're going to go ahead and surpass them. I think we take 5th. I appreciate you putting us in 4th. I hope you are 100% correct. But in order for that to happen, we're going to need all 9 points, and we're going to need a little help. So it can happen. That's possible. I just don't think it's probable. So I'm going to put us in 5th, and we're going to go and we're going to face Naples in the first game of the playoffs, which is fitting since that was their first league game of the regular season was against FC Naples. So why not go down to where it all began and kick off the playoffs and knock FC Naples out of the playoffs in the first match? I like the sounds of that.
Yeah, two expansion sides too. That'd be a really fun playoff matchup. So as
Yeah.
well.
So I agree with the wooden spoon. I think it's going to be Westchester as well. They just dug themselves too big of a hole, and I don't see them getting out of it. So I think Westchester will be your wooden spoon winner. And in terms of some things that we wanted to talk about was just a little bit of a few things that we maybe learned this year as an SG or maybe as a club, and for certainly for the Hearts is trying to collect as many points as you can on the early part of the year. We had so many draws, we kind of dug ourselves a hole, and I talked previously about maybe burning up some legs a little bit, trying to get those 20 points on the 8 matches unbeaten and all that sort of stuff, and maybe pay the piper a little bit for that. So try to have nice even burn rate in terms of points, and that's all great in theory and everything, but soccer soccer is a interesting game, and muscles get sore and injuries happen, and you have bad days and you have bad games, and you got to start making up for it somewhere. So I understand, right? That okay, yeah, sure, Sean, we'll just have a nice even burn rate all the way through the year. Thanks, but hey, try to try to do it as you can to prevent having to do these large surges like this because it wreaks havoc on a team, right? Um, and then basically, having a little extra depth for exactly those occasions is something that every team will churn the bottom of the roster and try to get that more depth. That's basically on the docket for all 14. Will be 21 teams next year. That's certainly on the docket, right? And from an SG perspective, certainly I'll share with all the SGs that are listening. It's a long season, and the more people you have helping out is certainly for the better. So in the SG, we're lucky to have some over 800 plus people in the Dirigo Union, and first year, maybe our leadership and our board, learning a little bit more for next year, going okay. Next year, we're going to have this many people on this part, this many people on this part. Next year, we're not going to have this person doing like 5 different jobs. We're going to split that up and we're going to spread it out. So I think maybe that's kind of what we learned from an SG perspective is maybe spread it out a little bit more. Now that we got the first year under us, and we've kind of seen the blueprint, if you will. It's certainly easier to better yourself once you've gone through it, you've seen it, you've lived it, you got the lumps and the bumps to prove it, and you can go, okay, I know what I'm doing different next year. So I think that's kind of what we learned this year. Anything that you would want to touch upon that, David?
Yeah, I think when you sent this over and I was trying to think about it, I think there's definitely probably a lot of things that we could say, but I think the one thing I kept coming back to was just enjoying all of the good moments for their own sake. It's really easy to focus on good things as stepping stones to great things. And honestly, hey, we know that Knoxville's at the top of the table and all that, but you guys might have had as many good moments as just about anyone. All the neutrals in the USL space when they talk about, supporters groups or sellouts or, kits and stuff like that, right? Y'all come up pretty quickly and everything's pretty good. And I'm certainly not saying that y'all have gotten lucky, right? Like you've worked and you've earned, what you've got. And there seems to be a lot of wonderful people there who've poured a lot into it. And I'm not saying that everything is going to become terrible or that it won't even, get better. The good clubs in this league seem to be pretty stable. Omaha making the playoffs again, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Madison on the cusp of it. Pro Rel's on the horizon. So who knows where this might lead. But all the good moments are worth enjoying for their own sake. It's not just, this is going to be the first playoffs of the dynasty to come or whatever. And, 3 months ago, a lot of starry-eyed optimism of, of course, everything has to just get better for AV from here. And, stuff happens. It's life. But and I think we did a good job of enjoying everything in the moment as well. But, but don't miss that along the way, right? Don't not enjoy, even Spokane midweek coming up or whatever, because all right, well, like if we win this and then if we beat AV and then if Naples, gets that, then maybe we get a home playoff game. And then, just living in the moment is probably something all of us could do more in life in general. But progress and success, it's not always linear and it can be pretty fragile. So, just live in the moment and y'all get, 3 home games to finish off the season, and maybe another, beyond that, we'll see, right? But just enjoy the party for its own sake, enjoy the games for its own sake, and control all the things you can control, and go build out that roster, and hey, let's make 2026 better than 2025. But don't get so wrapped up in that you miss the moment. And no doubt that y'all will do that, and it seems like that's been something that y'all been doing so far for sure. But as someone who can't get much better than the first 3 months, and can't get much bumpier than the last 3 months, just living in the moment is fun. And even for us going into Richmond this weekend, just gotta not look back, not look at the past, not define the Richmond game by what's come before it, but just show up and scream, and drums and vuvuzelas and whatever else, and just go ham, and it's going to be a great time no matter what. So I think that's the big thing that stood out to me from this year so far. That and defense. So we'll figure it out. So Knoxville, Chattanooga, and Spokane, top 3 teams, top 3 defenses. So it's almost like there's correlation there, but that's for another day. So
it's almost like that keeping the ball out of the back of the net thing is like a important thing to do or something.
It's one of the best 2 things you can do, right? So.
Well, David, I certainly appreciate your time, and certainly want to give you the opportunity to give yourself a little self-promotion. Remind everybody where we can find you and find your work over there at Tumbleweed Times.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And over here, Tumbleweed Times. On Instagram and Substack. So far, just been doing writing. Who knows? 2026 might have some audio or video content, but that's a decision for another day, right? But enjoying writing.
Perhaps
and,
perhaps a podcast.
Oh man, we gotta see what comes down the road, right? But enjoying a lot of its AV focused content, but then I'll have occasional ones about other topics as well. Had one earlier in the off season or in the season about scheduling and what that'll look like as we expand from 14 to 21, the different ways the league could approach that. Had one where I talked about different jerseys and all the kits that have been released this year. Probably going to do a USL team of the season kind of thing. So a lot of it's AV focused, but Tumbleweed Times, Instagram and Substack. Check it out, and just excited to be part of this kind of growing community of USL content creators and voices and fans and everything that kind of surrounding 90 minutes on the pitch. But it's been fun. It's been a great first season. Excited for what comes next.
All right, so if you cannot be at Fitzpatrick Stadium next week when we face AV Alta in the last regular season of the game, you can certainly catch it on ESPN Plus. And I believe you can also catch it on Nessun and Nessun Plus here locally here in New England. And it's going to be a great, enjoyable match. And David, I certainly appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.